Hello and welcome to another video, and today I'm going to be going over California's 25th Congressional District special election. I'm going to be giving my prediction and also an analysis. So there was actually a runoff. This is a runoff election between Christy Smith and Mike Garcia. So Christy Smith is the Democrat who's running, and she is serving as a California State Assemblywoman for the 38th district since 2018. So then we have Mark Garcia, and he is a U.S. Navy veteran and businessman. And there were many people actually in the running for the to become the person to replace Katie Hill. She was the former congresswoman from this district. Let me see where the results are. Okay, so we have Katie Hill. She actually ousted an incumbent, Steve Knight, who was the incumbent. He won. He actually beat a Republican because you don't have it isn't Democrat versus Republican. It's just the top two people in the runoff. So Steve Knight, he was the congressman in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. Then he got ousted in the midterms by Katie Hill, and that was a big Democratic gain, and it wasn't even that close. It was by 9 points, which is interesting because it was pretty Republican before that. So she actually resigned, and there was a big deal out of that. And now she's going to be now people are trying to replace her as the congressman or congresswoman or congressperson in the district. So we had in the Democratic party, we had Robert Cooper, university professor. I really don't think he did well. Yetro Frank Elise, a patient resource worker. David Rudnick, a businessman, real estate investor, political activist, and U.S. Marine Corps veteran. I don't think he did really well. Christy Smith, she was endorsed by Katie Hill and many other Democrats. She was more of the establishment candidate. And then you had Cenk Uygur, who is he's the host and co-founder and CEO of the Young Turks, which is a big corporation, and it's also a YouTube channel. He's on there. He's the main host. He's usually there for like live streams and stuff like that. He's also the co-founder of Justice Democrats, and he was the founder of Wolfpack, which is a super PAC which was formed in 2011. So then we had Anibal Valdez Ortega, who's an attorney and community organizer. And on the Republican side, we had Mike Garcia, Kenneth Jenks, Steve Knight, who was actually the former representative. He was probably the front runner for the spot. Corny Lakey, David Lozano, Daniel Mercury, and George Papadopoulos, who is a foreign policy. He was a foreign policy advisor for the 2016 Trump campaign. So there were notable Republicans running for this district, and the main people who got endorsements, like Mike Garcia. He was endorsed by Donald Trump. He was also endorsed by Buck McKeon, who is the former representative before Steve Knight. So that's interesting. Steve Knight wasn't really that popular with the Republican base probably because he was ousted in 2018, so they were vying for somebody who might be more electable. So had all of these local officials. We even had like a Larry Elder go out and endorse him. The Republican National Hispanic Assembly of California endorsed him. So most of the Republican Party endorsed Mike. I'm always saying Mark. I'm sorry, Mike Garcia. So you had Steve Knight. He was only endorsed by 3 people: Kevin McCarthy, Tom McClintock, Mike Antonovich. Yeah, not really helpful. You had Christy Smith, and she was endorsed by almost all of the Democrats, and she was, that's a lot. You had like Christian Gillibrand, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, Katie Hill, Judy Chu, Adam Schiff, Brad Sherman, Ted Lieu, all of these people. So she was really thought of as the front runner in this race, at least for the Democrats. And here we have Cenk Uygur, and he actually didn't accept endorsements from outside the 25th district, and basically Ro Khanna and Bernie Sanders, they both endorsed Cenk Uygur, but he asked them to retract the endorsement. So basically, you had a lot of people who vocally supported Cenk Uygur, like Joe Sestak, Marianne Williamson, Andrew Yang, Nina Turner. A lot of people, mostly progressives, which is pretty obvious because he was the more progressive candidate. And the results in this district election, you had like David Rudnick, Getro F. Elise, Kenneth Jenkins, Danielle Mercury, David Lozano, Robert Cooper III, Courtney Lackey. All these people, they all got under 2%. And then you have Anibal Valdez Ortega, who got 5th place with 4.6% of the votes. You have Cenk Uygur, and he didn't really do well. I really doubt that there were many people subscribed to his YouTube channel, or who even watch the Young Turks in that specific district, or in general. TYT has like 6 million subscribers, and I really doubt that helped him. But he did have some name recognition, but he was in a far 4th. Steve Knight, he didn't do really well. He got 3rd with 17% of the vote, and Mike Garcia got 25% of the vote, while Christy Smith got 36% of the vote. So basically, because none of the candidates got more than 50% of the vote, there's going to be a runoff actually today, and there was only one poll from March, which has Mike Garcia leading by 4 points, but I think we should take that with a grain of salt. We have 10% of the people undecided, and it's from March. So I'm going to go to the fundraising for these candidates. You have Christy Smith. She got a lot of support from outside her district. Same with Mike Garcia, but mostly she got a lot of contributions from outside of the district. So she raised 2.2 million. Mike Garcia did as well, but she raised a bit more than him, and she spent around like $40,000 more. $40,000 more than Mike Garcia, but she has less cash on hand, and this is out of this was updated on April 22nd, so she does have a slight advantage with fundraising, and from what I could tell, it's been trending to the Democrats pretty safe when Buck McKeon was there. And then you had like Buck McKeon narrowly losing to Lee Rogers, Steve Knight, narrow and pretty narrowly losing to Brian Goforio and Katie Hill actually beating Steve Knight. So it has trended towards the Democrats. It's a pretty suburban area. It's right here. It is. It's very close to many of the larger cities. It's very close to many of the larger cities. Here, it currently covers most of the northern Los Angeles County and parts of eastern Ventura County. And yes, it includes cities like Palmdale, Santa Clara, and Simi Valley, San Fernando Valley, many places. But it's also a suburban area. You have so the fact that the Republicans lost here shows how they're doing worse with suburban voters. So if Mike Garcia does well with the suburban voters and actually wins this special election, that's going to be very interesting because it's one of the bigger weaknesses for the Republicans. For now, just looking at the results from before, in the election, before the runoff, just the results, you do have Christy Smith with a pretty sizable advantage, and it's ranked as a toss-up by Political Reports, Sabato's Crystal Ball, and Politico, but it's also rated as likely Democrat by Inside Elections. So I honestly do think that it will go to Christy Smith by maybe 2 to 5%. Maybe it becomes something like 7% or 6%. But I really don't see. I could see a pathway for Mike Garcia, but just because of how heavily Democratic this district has become, it's going to be very hard. And here I want to open up the, where's California's? Okay, so here we have the ethnicity, and 45% of the district is white. You have 8% black and Asian, and then you have 0.7% Native American. But you have, interestingly, 35% of the people in the district are Hispanic. And we do know that the split of Hispanic voters in California especially, and in the rest of the country, could be like 70 to 30 or like 80 to 20 or 90 to 10. So that's a massive advantage for Christy Smith. And the fact that suburban white women are starting to trend towards the Democrats is another thing that's going to help Christy Smith. So I think that just adds to why I think that she has a narrow advantage against Mike Garcia. So, but I could see Mike Garcia winning, but I just feel like Christy Smith has the narrow advantage. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.